Greetings, my name is Elena. Throughout my life, I have struggled with a lack of confidence. The media's portrayal of beauty standards did not include many individuals who resembled me, which only exacerbated my insecurities. Specifically, I was self-conscious about the size of my posterior, which made it difficult to fit into my preferred clothing. Additionally, my mother's striking beauty only served to further diminish my self-esteem, as she was crowned prom queen during her youth. I must confess there were moments when I would secretly try on my mother's crown and envision myself as Miss Spring, basking in the glory of the flowers that surrounded me. It is very kind of you, Elena. May I inquire as to your current activity? Merely dusting off your crown, Your Majesty? My dear, that was quite some time ago. I am now a respected doctor. However, I do believe that you possess the charm and talent to become the prom queen this year. Although, I must admit, I believe you were jesting. I recall being quite skilled in dancing and skating, but my insecurities regarding my appearance prevented me from showcasing my abilities. My school experience was often akin to an obstacle course. I was apprehensive that my figure would be the subject of gossip, and thus, I would change for gym class in the restroom. On one occasion, I struggled to fasten my jeans, and Rose, whose name was quite fitting, entered the restroom. She possessed both beauty and arrogance, much like a flower with thorns. I held my breath, hoping to evade her notice. However, fate had other plans as a button came loose and struck Rose's nose. From that moment on, she relentlessly taunted me, referring to me as chubby cheeks and making jests at my expense. Despite her lack of humor, I lacked the courage to confront her, and as a result, I often found myself alone in the dining room. Patrick Johnson, the most accomplished student in our school, caught my eye. We shared a love for cats and fantasy novels, but my timidity prevented me from approaching him. I believed myself unworthy of his attention. One day, I dozed off in class and dreamt of a version of myself that was slim and beautiful. In my dream, everyone adored me, and Patrick treated me like royalty. However, I was abruptly awoken by the sound of my teacher banging on my desk and my classmates laughing at me. I was mortified. As the spring dance approached, the girls in my class began to speculate about who would be crowned queen. I longed for the title, but I knew I didn't stand a chance. I refused to put my name on the list of candidates and went home. On my way, I passed an extreme park where I watched skaters perform impressive tricks. I knew I could do the same, but I was too afraid of being ridiculed. That night, I had a nightmare where my jeans ripped on stage and my classmates laughed at me. I woke up in a cold sweat, realizing that I needed to change. I resolved to lose weight and began eating only vegetables for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My mother noticed my change in diet and expressed concern, but I was determined to become the queen. Despite my efforts, I saw no results. My mother suggested I join a dance studio to lose weight and improve my health, but I refused, fearing the judgment of others. I continued to eat sparingly, but my lack of progress frustrated me. I was experiencing anxiety and difficulty controlling my temper when my mother presented me with a medication. She expressed her desire to assist me and informed me that the medication was developed within our hospital and would facilitate an overnight transformation. Initially, I was skeptical and expressed my disbelief in fairy tales due to my age. However, I decided to try the medication to avoid hurting my mother's feelings. I consumed one pill before retiring for the night and experienced vivid dreams. The following morning, I was astounded by the transformation that had occurred. I encountered a stranger in the mirror and realized that it was my own reflection. My mother's remedy had indeed facilitated an overnight change. I expressed my gratitude to my mother and proceeded to school, where I was met with astonishment from my peers due to my newfound beauty. I was able to engage with individuals who I had previously been too intimidated to approach, and even made plans with a classmate. I was elated with my newfound confidence and social success. However, my mood was dampened upon encountering a stranger near my home, whose face seemed familiar but whose identity I could not recall. I attempted to communicate with him, but he feigned ignorance and hastily departed. I was perplexed and sought clarification from my mother without delay. "What are you referring to, dear?" she inquired. I was confronted with a conundrum. Either I was experiencing a hallucination or my mother was withholding information from me. I resolved to discuss the matter of my enchanted supplements with her the following day. What if they were producing peculiar side effects? However, my mother had already departed for work by the time I awoke, so I brought the pills with me to school and enlisted Patrick's assistance after classes. You possess a proficiency in chemistry, correct? I inquired. Can you determine the composition of these pills? I am uncertain, Donna. That will require a significant amount of time, he replied. Please, it is of great importance, I implored. Very well. Anything for my beloved, he responded, and I embraced him gratefully. He was an exceptional boyfriend. Although he had intended to visit a pizzeria after classes, I opted to visit the extreme park since Patrick would be occupied in the laboratory. Greetings. May I join you? I inquired. I demonstrated a few tricks, and they responded with admiration. I effortlessly assimilated into their group and was elated to have fulfilled yet another aspiration. I adored my new life. However, I was apprehensive that I would gain weight and revert to my former self, the insecure and timid Elena. I even had a nightmare about it that evening. In the dream, I ascended the stage to receive my crown and instantaneously became corpulent in front of everyone. I was petrified and nearly fell out of my bed. The following morning, I convinced myself that my anxiety was due to the upcoming dance and proceeded to school. Everything was proceeding smoothly until a calamity occurred during gym class. Rose glared at me, and I sensed that she was up to no good. When it was my turn to complete the running test, I ran several laps around the gymnasium, perspiring profusely and drenching my attire. After the test, I sat on a bench and toppled over because someone had tampered with it. I knew who was responsible. Rose, you have gone too far this time, I exclaimed. Oh, please. You are so heavy. It was bound to happen sooner or later, she retorted. What are you talking about? I'm slender now, I countered. Really? Look over there, she replied. I gazed at the location where I had fallen and was astounded. There was a massive wet spot on the floor. How was that feasible? I anxiously stepped on the scales and was bewildered. My weight had not altered at all. It was inexplicable. I dashed into the hallway and collided with Patrick. Excuse me, I was in search of your presence. I have discovered that your pills possess no unique properties but are instead ordinary breath mints. I am perplexed as to how they could have aided me. Upon examining myself in the mirror, I realized that my physical appearance had not undergone any transformation. I experienced a sense of disorientation, as if trapped in a nightmare. Upon returning home, I demanded an explanation from my mother. She proceeded to inform me that there was no magical remedy, but rather she had sought to instill a sense of self-belief within me. To achieve this, she enlisted the assistance of her colleague, Dr. Ross, a hypnotist, who convinced me that I had undergone a transformation and now possessed the appearance I had always desired. It became apparent that the strange man I had encountered was Dr. Ross. I was devastated to learn that my mother had deceived me in such a manner and was overcome with emotion. However, my mother attempted to console me by emphasizing that I had achieved my goals and had gained the affection of those I desired, not due to my physical appearance, but rather my newfound confidence. Despite my initial reluctance, I eventually forgave my mother and returned to school, where I was greeted with warmth and affection from my peers. At the spring dance, I was voted as the queen due to my kind and friendly nature, and I realized that the loyalty of my friends was far more valuable than any crown. Tell me what you think in the comments down below, and don't forget to press like.